Hey there, this is Michelle from Toolfarm, and today I'm going to show you a bit about some Red Giant keying tools, Red Giant's Primatte Keyer and Key Correct, and they're both tools that I've used for several years. They're really great, but first I want to tell you about a little problem I ran into recently. I have a new iMac and it shipped with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and using these plugins and other plugins, it's not just these, I was having problems with what I think are memory leaks. It would give the error that I needed to have at least 2 frames to play the video, which of course I did, and I researched this quite a bit, and I uninstalled a bunch of plugins, which is tough for me because I have so darn many, and I souped this machine up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is maxing it out, and this is the 5K Retina. It's a beautiful machine. Let me tell you, does it play nicer since I got the new RAM installed. So this is some video footage of a woman on an iPad or a tablet of some sort. So I went with this shot. Now this is from Pond 5. They have some great footage. I was thinking about putting swiped images in the background to make it interesting, but I thought, you know what, this is about keying, not so much compositing. But I am going to show you some of the cool compositing controls that are built right into Primatte, and I'm going to show you a couple of tools that come with Key Correct as well. All of these are available in the Red Giant keying suite. I'm going to start over with this, how you can break down the shot so that you can get a nice key on the hair and on the skin without getting any of those annoying black lines. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is the G mat, garbage mat. And what this is a roughly drawn articulated mask around your green screen footage. This green screen footage is shot really nice. It's fairly even, there's not a lot of shadows, and there's some spill, but that's not a big deal. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my garbage mat. I'll just use the pen tool. There's several ways to do this. This is just one way to do it. I have a video up online, an easy way I learned from some of the guys from Adobe about how to create a super easy garbage mat using Keylight. However, today, since we are using Primatte, we won't go into that. I have my mask here. I'm going to click the M key to bring up mask and set a keyframe. And then I'm just going to drag through and see if she moves out of the mask. Now she's not moving a lot, which is nice. There is a little bit of motion blur in her hand, but it's not a big deal. It looks like she's staying pretty much in the mask. Oh, maybe there. I'll move that just a tiny bit up. Now notice that this is not a tight mask. If you are moving points of a mask, I recommend that you move them together. Move them in groups. It keeps things a little smoother. The next thing I'm going to do is use Smooth Screen from Key Correct. So I'll just apply that to my layer, and what this does is it will even out the greens so that I just have one color to choose from. I want to make sure I pick the right shade of green. I'm turning off the effect because the default color is a little off, and I want to make sure that I get the right color. I probably would just select it just fine without it, but I like to be safe. So I'm clicking right in here next to her hair. It's good to select next to the hair because that's the area that's the most difficult to key generally. I do have spill on here, so I don't want to crank this up too much because if I do that, you'll see it'll cause problems. Now you can see her skin is the worst part here. Lightness tolerance, there you go. You can see how this tablet looks gross now. So I'll just undo that. I'm going to leave these at their settings. If I toggle this on and off, you can see the difference that it makes. It doesn't look like it's affecting the color too much. I can see a bit of a problem right through here, which I might want to address. I don't want this to cause too much of a problem. Now this footage really isn't too bad anyway, so I probably don't even need this a lot, so we'll just leave it at that. I'm going to rename this composition. I'll call this G-Mat for video because this is a video that we're doing. I want you to notice also that I have this background set to a bright red. The reason I'm using a bright color like this is so that when I key, I'll be able to see the edges really, really well. If I have black there, I might be losing pieces of my dark edges and I wouldn't even know it. This can be a problem with white as well. I may not see around her hair, for example. But red or bright orange or anything contrasting with green can work really well. So we'll call that good. I'm going to create a new composition just by dragging this GMAT for video file down into this create new composition. And now what I'm going to do is create my core mat. So I'm going to rename this layer core mat. And the core mat will lay over top of all of the other layers, all of my edge mats. So the edge mats will capture things like the edge of her hair here, but the core mat will be all the stuff in the center. So basically what I want to do is pull a key and then cinch my edges in. So I'm going to be using Primatte. I'll drag Primatte onto the layer. And with Primatte I have the option of de-artifacting modes. I can choose one of these. I don't think I really need it for either of these, but I'll just leave it set for now. We can adjust it later if we need to. Sometimes it works well if you have a problem with an edge. For this one, I don't really have to worry about the edges so much. I'm going to select my background color here, and I have this set to a point sample, and I'm going to drag around her hair. Now that looks pretty good. You can see that there's some problems here. I just need to set the view to matte. And I should see a black and white matte here. You can see areas of gray. So I have these options under selection to clean foreground and clean background. I'm going to choose clean background and just drag a bit more here until I get a nice selection. I can't see, it looks pretty black and white. Now remember, this is my core mat, so I don't have to worry about getting nice and neat around her hair, which makes it easy here. So I'm going to go back to the comp settings under view, and now I'm going to shrink in my mat. So shrink mat, and pull this up really, really high. Alright, so I'm going to grab another instance of the GMAT for video, and let me change the name of this composition as well. Composition settings, I'll call this, let's call this composite. And I'll turn off my core mat for now. My core mat will go on top, but for now I'll just leave it where it is. And now this time I want to isolate her hair. I could pull everything in one mat, but I thought it looked a little bit chunky around her hair, and there was a weird line around her face that I couldn't get rid of. So that's why I want to do this all with separate mats. Let me just throw the mask on here. And I'll get some of her face in here, that's just fine. And the mask color, notice that the mask color is changing. If I go into the After Effects preferences and I go under cycle masks, it will automatically cycle the mask color. And then use contrasting color for mask path, which is helpful. This blue or purple or whatever it is not quite bright enough to see. It's purple here. I'm going to make a bright yellow. See if that's easier to see. Oh, it certainly is. And I also want to feather the mask a fair amount because I want a soft edge. So I'm going to set a keyframe for mask path, and then go ahead and make sure that she stays inside the mask the whole time, which I believe she kind of only moves towards the end. That's pretty good. Actually, she stays in there quite a bit. It's this edge of her face that's the problem, that had that weird the weird line around it. So it looks like we're not going to have too much of a problem. We can always adjust the mask later. It's not animated, so that makes it even easier. Alright, I want to adjust my mat to make sure that my mat's nice and clean here, and it looks like it's just got a few things that I need to tweak. I can clean the background by dragging in here again. That's pretty good, and I'll set this back to comp. Through the magic of editing, I've decided to shorten up this tutorial a bit because it was getting a bit long, and I'm sure you probably have the idea. I have my core mat on top, then I have face, hair, and body layers underneath. I didn't have to keyframe these masks very much because honestly she didn't move a lot, which was making things pretty easy for me. I do have a lot of settings for compositing in Primatte here. And because I've done this with multiple masks, I've decided to do this a bit differently than maybe you're used to doing. I set up the color matcher and everything beforehand, so I can just turn these off because these are all referencing a background layer, and I don't have a background layer in here now. What I want to do with these is pre-compose these and then adjust them all at once, and that will be a lot easier for workflow. So I'll select all of these, layer pre-compose, and we'll call this matte comp. Good enough, as long as I know what it is later on. And I'm going to go back to my composite layer, which has my matte comp in it, and I will drag my background into it. Now my background is this blobs background, And the whole idea with this blobs background changing color was to just show you how the color matching settings are affected with a changing background color. So first, let's set up color matching. I'm going to drag that onto my layer. Now this is the same color matching tool that is inside Primatte, but this time I'm using it in Key Correct as a separate tool. So I just need to select my target layer, which is my blobs background. Notice this is pre-composed, and the reason is because if I'm just referencing a solid layer, then it would take this deep blue color as opposed to colors in tritone. And that clearly made a change right away. It's a bit strong in my opinion. Let me go back and show you another color here. You can see how it's very blue here. So I'm going to set the strength to about 15. But, you know, the thing that was really bothering me was her skin tone. So I'm going to take that back. And I'll just place that effect under it. I'm going to use Colorista for this. I could use numerous plugins, but Colorista will work well. And I really just want to change the saturation. I just want to tweak it down just a little bit. I don't want to make her look dead or anything, but just take some of that orange out. And let me turn the color matcher back on, and it's still a bit strong. But maybe it's okay. You can see how it does change. It's like reflected color on her skin. I just want to show you the light wrap that is in Key Correct. Drag that to my matte comp. And again, I need to choose my background layer. And you can see right away that it brought in some color here. Check out the bottom of her sleeve when I toggle this on and off. And her shoulder. You can see how it kind of reflects some of that light from the background. I can adjust the width, make it a bit larger. I don't want it to look fake, of course, but I do think it helps. I can adjust the blur. You do have options to see just the wrap or the wrap on black, which is helpful, so you can see what area is being affected by the light. I can also adjust the screen mode when I have it set on comp. So if I want to darken her up, but I like the screen effect, so I'll leave it at that. So I also had some text in here. I don't think we need to show you that part. I hope you learned a little bit about the multiple masking method of keying and how it can help your workflow and help you get better quality keys, and how Primatte and Key Correct from Red Giant Software can help you achieve those goals. Thank you to Pond5 as well for the footage of the woman, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.